Swiss cheese. The Swiss cheese. This bridge may fall under the same guidelines as the SE 15th Ave Bridge near the University of Minnesota and Como Avenue on the border of St. Paul and southeast Minneapolis, Minnesota. You will, as a United States citizen, you must start asking yourself these questions. America is no longer doing what it used to when it comes to abiding by name guidelines set by the Federal Board of Transportation. All states must place here to the Federal Board of Transportation to keep up the mass transit corridor. Are our citizens truly concerned about their welfare around the railroad line? Railway bridges in their communities. Are the conglomerate organizations of the railroad companies truly going to deal with society's requests, or are the railroad bridge going to collapse? Then all has to answer major questions that don't make sense at all. Are the conglomerate organizations, Burlington, Santa Fe, and Union Pacific, truly concerned about their bridges, or they just tried to do the minimum upkeep to say to the Federal Board of Transportation that they did something? Are the homeless communities truly littering underneath the bridges, or are citizens driving their cars throwing the trash out the driver's door? In turn, is also another way of littering as well, because it is closer to the United States National Guard Recruitment Center on Broadway Street, Harrison Street, Spring Street, and Polk Street, Northeast Minneapolis. Did we not learn a valuable lesson from the 35W bridge tragedy? How much is it going to affect society? Is this bridge another one of those bridges that seem to fall under the clause of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad? National security is at risk. In Minnesota, regarding the railroad bridge near Broadway Street, Harrison Street, Spring Street, and Polk Street, Northeast Minneapolis, the streets are necessary to get to the federal government property, as well as getting to citizens' homes and parks. We need to engage the Army Corps of Engineers to ensure the safety of our national security, as well as citizens' lives. The question to the government is how often the bridge is evaluated. We've named this bridge Swiss cheese for a reason, and that is because it is so pitted due to the concrete vibrating off of the bridge itself and trees growing out of the pillar supports. What can the national security view regarding the railroad catastrophe situation? Railroad line issues within the state of Minnesota to ensure the transportation corridor door is safe for national security and the citizen of the inner city of Minnesota. When does the federal government decide to take over and does something about the disaster pending regarding mass transit endangerment of our communities? It seems like this is an ongoing theme with this bridge. Why aren't the Army Corps engineers taking the initiative to deal with this one? Again, you will see the issues with the railroad bridge in this video are tremendously degraded because of the neglect of the railroad organizations that keep these rail lines. We must rely on the federal government for assistance and have authority over everything. Federal government boards of transportation are the ones that can help fight against the Burlington, Santa Fe, and Union Pacific Railroad line organizations are nothing but a complete disgrace to Americans and transportation corridors. In the upkeep of national security transportation corridors, Army Corps of Engineers at least know what Corps of Engineers are doing when it comes to rebuilding bridge for railroad lines, especially when the government buildings are in the area. This does not exclude the citizens who live around this bridge, includes them as well. But I will say, when does the federal government decided to take over and do something about the disaster pending regarding mass transit endangerment of our communities? It seems like this is an ongoing theme with this bridge. As far as can be seen, the state government does not care about its national transportation corridor unless it is necessary for war, because it allows the states to relax their safety protocol unless it is a state that ends up suffering from national disasters frequently. Then the state makes sure that the roads and bridge are maintained appropriately. Now, if the state does not have natural disasters often that a particular state like the state of Minnesota relaxes, it is the transport of transportation safety guidelines to the point where the protocols are not followed anymore that was set by the Army Corps of Engineers way back in the 1930s. Safety protocols one more time were prevalent in the United States when World War I started. As you can see, concrete is falling off the pillars, walls, and ceiling. In addition, you will see more trees growing in the support structure, which in turn deteriorates the support structure faster because the trees are always growing through the concrete support structure. Due to the situations, it is deteriorating faster than a normal person's would think. Why do I say a person? Is because how fast individuals who are transporting across and underneath this bridge, because of the pace that individuals were going slower and willingness to pay attention and look, plus individuals would see that deterioration of this bridge. Because of this report that will be linked in the description is also included with this bridge that is on Northeast Minneapolis, which probably fits under the same statutes of what these two organizations have developed together, because there is no record of the bridge even being built and what year. Maybe there is a record of it somewhere under the Federal Board of Transportation, but as the for civilians to check on this bridge is unavailable to public records. Unavailable is probably for this reason. Link https with dailyplanetnet 15th Avenue Railroad Bridge rated poor. These bridge are already on the concerned lists, but no one is willing to challenge the Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific in court to get this bridge fixed within the state of Minnesota, because our state does not endure natural disasters frequently. By the time World War II came along, vehicles were coming on the scene for wartime, and mass transit, main source of getting to one place from the other again, was the railroad system, and beginning all of the military equipment to designated areas for war, not just in equipment but personnel as well. It still plays a major role in our community's survival to get merchandise and products back and forth quickly in our country, and yet the state of Minnesota is going to be the weak link in our country's mass transit corridor because of the conditions of the railroad train bridge crossing throughout the state of Minnesota, guaranteed downtown and surrounding area of the state of Minnesota. Can our nation decide to come together before a national disaster occurs? It seems unlikely, because my country has now become I, me and myself. Our nation is becoming more selfish in our country, unlike some individuals who are not so greedy. I'm seeing more of our nation and citizens become more selfish unless the public wants to gain banger, which is what society seems like it is becoming, which is not good. Why am I putting this in this report is because of what is truly occurring with our national security combing from downtown Minneapolis 3rd Avenue heading towards northeast Minneapolis anyway, due to the United States National Guard recruitment centers so close, as well as other federal government agencies near. All of these bridge qualify for immediate replacement of these bridge by the Army Corps of Engineers. Communities are going to pay the price, not to mention going to cause a lot more homeless individuals in addition to affecting small businesses. The federal government and communities are going to be endangered because of all the potential chemical waste that the trains carry every day, not to mention you can get into our water supply. If this bridge does collapse, society will be subject to a new situation that is going to be a problem within our culture. We as individuals need to uphold the Board of Transportation Safety Corridor guidelines regarding the railroad line bridge. Freedom was never an idea, it was blood, sweat and tears. Everyone paid the blood, sweat and tears of everyone who died in battle from the nation's national security needs. Bridges must be repaired immediately because of the vicinities of federal government property being so close to this bridge, and how close potential natural gas lines are within the citizens' homes to keep them warm and cool throughout the seasons of Minnesota. We as citizens must uphold the mass transit corridor door safety protocols that were instilled in the 1930s Federal Board of Transportation protocols, ensuring the safety for every citizen and community to make sure that they are minimizing the unforeseen incidents of derailment and catastrophic failure of the railroad bridge in the area of northeast Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a massive conglomerate organization tactic against the national and homeland security endangerment. This must be fixed. It has to go to federal court to get this massive potential catastrophic failure of this bridge that we have named Swiss cheese because of the condition it looks like. This bridge, I have given the massive piece of concrete through my team members that I worked with in the past. I do not think normal citizens would like to be homeless. Is it due to them losing their jobs and their homes, or is it due to the federal and state boards of transportation being irresponsible with their lives? We have a massive homeless society nowadays, and the homeless live under these railroad bridge as well. And look at what occurred under the 35W bridge when it collapsed. There were a bunch homeless citizens underneath that bridge well at that time, but how is this relating to that railroad bridge? Homeless citizens living underneath them. Are society a part of the deterioration of the bridge itself, or is it also due to being irresponsible for the lack of maintaining the bridge appropriately? Whenever the contractor is going to truly come and fix the situation, we must get the Army Corps of Engineers to come and resolution this appropriately. Is they're trained. I know that a lot of it is for the military and some for civilians who use the train to get to a location somewhere within a state or country where the products, mitral items that are located on the trains every day and in the train cars on the railway line every day. If our state continues to ignore our national transportation corridor national safety protocols that were established in the 1930s when World War I started to protect our country against communism, we continue to relax our safety protocols, are going to be a national disaster within their country, and the states play a part in this, allowing it to be relaxed. Especially if you want to get political, it is becoming that way. Unfortunately, in this video you will also see not only concrete missing out from the branch and on the road, but also trash as well. Society loves to dump its trash under the railroad bridge. Most likely it is from the homeless communities living within homeless citizens underneath the railroad bridge instead of cleaning up after themselves? Are the homeless citizens just littering behind themselves? I truly wonder why our society is not helping these homeless citizens trying to get work. It seems that our individual schools are in gains and has massive criminal records that are a possibility as well, but then again, is an individual's life important according to the government? Most likely not, because it is not paying attention to society when it comes to its national transportation corridor. When is it going to take for citizens to cry out to get this fixed permanently, when it is going to take citizens to push the government to do something about it? Or is it going to take another disaster like another 35W bridge incident to occur for the federal government to engage in safety protocols again? I do not think it is fair to every citizen in America who is probably suffering from this, unless you're living in a state that is prevalent to national disasters frequently than the state budget in the safety protocol procedures. Most of the reasons why the Army Corps of Engineers are idle are because of rerouting other trains because of reasons unknown at this point, although one or more bridge have been condemned because of those bridge that are inadequate to cross, or the other train has the right of way. That also can be true. Never lose the ability to assume what could be concerned about the bridge that Amtrak Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines cross every day to get where. Amtrak Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines need to be at a current state or time. Those items need to be at a current location. Northeast Minneapolis Pacific Railroad Bridge. Union Pacific Railroad. Federal and State Board of Transportation regarding this bridge in America has been utilized in the Transportation Corridor Safety Guidelines that also have been put in place since World War II in the United States. Safety should be the #1 priority of our society. This bridge, as well as several other bridges, have apparent issues and should not be unkempt to the point of individuals taking the time to walk by my neighborhood bridge and being afraid to cross because it is all worn out with missing or broken parts of the bridge in terrible conditions. We must remind the federal and Minnesota State Board of Transportation that many lives were lost at the time of the 35W bridge collapse. The upkeep of the bridge has been an ongoing issue that needs to be addressed. Union Pacific Railroad liner rather than later. The bridge is a large number of citizens' way of commuting throughout the city. The citizens should not have to cry out to get the maintenance of the bridge done. The government is solely responsible for making the necessary changes to correct the issues of this bridge. When the state is not keeping up with the maintenance work of the bridge, then the federal government should step in. Situation awareness is required with these railroad bridge, and citizens need to pay attention to their surroundings, even though it is the responsibility of the federal and state boards of transportation to keep these rail line bridge are going to occur constantly in danger, especially when it comes to national security. If we go to war, that's when our mass transitions corridor is key for the citizens' ability to keep safe. So citizens are not paying attention to the community. Citizens just end themselves and not caring about others. It has become a selfless society, unlikely it used to be back in the 30s through the 70s. Communities worked together more so back in the day when the mentioned civilians and citizens alike were treating each other with respect and kindness. Dissimilar today, it is ignoring its safety protocols regarding railroad transportation corridor. Unlike back in the day, Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines will fix these problems quickly, like Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines engineers were supposed to, because Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines engineers knew the potential endangerment of civilians' lives. Today, Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines engineers went down when the disaster occurred. I feel that our society is unconcerned about the welfare of their communities themselves. Society is having a situation that is occurring because of their ignorance and willingness to take the responsibility to inform the federal and state boards of transportation that this bridge replaced by a certified agency that can repair bridge assigned by federal and state boards of transportation must tear the bridge and replace it. State boards of transportation must tear that bridge down and replace it from scratch. The Burlington Santa Fe Union Pacific Railroad line organizations, to the point where the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad Pacific Railroad line organizations, it seems like after looking at the information regarding the Army Corps of Engineers, at least know what the Army Corps of Engineers is doing when it comes to rebuilding bridge for railroad lines, especially when the government buildings are in the area. This does not exclude the citizens who live around this bridge, includes them. Regarding the bridge on Como Avenue and 15th Ave Southeast, directly on the border of Minneapolis and St. Paul, this railroad bridge report is related to Burlington Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad line organizations. These two organizations are endangering the federal and state board of transportation guidelines, creating a Minnesota endangerment of national security. The Army Corps of Engineers, are we truly upholding the safety border similar guidelines as if the border of our countries are at risk, especially with the mass transit corridor disasters. Every state that suffers from natural disasters has a unique situation because Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines pay attention to the safety protocols of the transportation corridor protocols. It is just becoming worse and worse every day. As you see in this bridge is the hitting the loss of concrete. The structures are constantly failing because of the year responsibility of the National Board of Transportation with the state of Minnesota. Will the government come down hard on the state of Minnesota? I sure hope so, because this is not a political game with people's lives at stake. Are the citizens going to allow to be a pawn in a chess game for the federal government to decide to do something regarding the railroad bridge? In the lawsuit against the railroad line Minnesota, the concrete of this bridge is just deteriorating left and right all over itself, and again race another bridge. These bridges are being neglected and not maintained appropriately by an organization that understands the weather and forces in dynamics of the train that is idle for periods on a bridge. The damage to these bridges is so serious that if Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines engineers continue to allow bridge to cross these tracks is unbelievable. It is atrocious that society really should fight back, but society is scared to fight the conglomerate organizations of the rail line companies because of their ability to fight back with the union and everything else. This is when we need to go to a federal court and talk to a federal attorney to figure out what is required to go after these organizations to get this bridge replaced, because otherwise something must be done quickly, because society is so scared to stand up for themselves and the integrity of the national security is the risk. Is the federal government going to step in and get this done? I sure hope so, because it is going to take the federal government to do something about it, not just to the state of Minnesota. That the United States federal government Board of Transportation must step in, because the state of Minnesota, the general public cannot do anything regarding railroad bridge because of the so-called guidelines that Burlington, Santa Fe and the Union Pacific have developed regarding certain railroad bridge throughout the state of Minnesota, if not throughout the whole country. The railroad conglomerate organizations truly going to do something about it is highly unlikely. It seems that Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific are only concerned about making money and getting loads done. Each shipment on those rail lines is always a dollar item, which is due to businesses needing merchandise instead of giving a lot of the merchandise from the United States citizens themselves. It is getting the merchandise from overseas, and very little of it is worth what society put the price on for. These railroad organizations are truly unconcerned about the citizens of America. The Union of Burlington, Santa Fe as well as Union Pacific is a conglomerate organization that makes its own guidelines, which are supposed to coincide with the United States federal and state Board of Transportation safety guidelines within the transportation corridor door in order to protect the citizens and national security. Burlington and Union Pacific does not have the proper behavior for safety protocols to uphold the United States federal and state Board of Transportation safety car door guidelines of Transportation. Army Corps of Engineers do say as a high priority. Then why do not Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad lines engineers have an inspection on every bridge recorded for citizens and federal government alike, instead of hiding it in plain sight, such as this particular bridge that is on northeast Minneapolis, Minnesota? These two rail line companies are a conglomerate organization that seems to act as a mom organization. Doors normal society and federal and state Board of Transportation safety guidelines. We need a federal attorney who is willing to stand up against the Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad organizations. This bridge is one of the top 5 bridge that is in such poor condition that the infrastructure of the bridge is compromised. The framework has missing pieces with cracked concrete throughout the bridge. I do not know how safe this bridge is with an old passenger train on top of it and trees growing out of the concrete. We need to get the right people at the right time and place to do the necessary for this bridge so we do not have another tragedy with another bridge. The state or federal government needs to be proactive on this issue. Maintenance of this bridge is not something we think about until it is too late. Thousands of people travel over or under these bridge daily, and society counts on government officials to pass laws that protect our bridge and roadways to keep them safe for the American people, because this is so insane how Burlington, Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroad line leave this bridge in this poor condition in dealing with the compromised material, because of the way it has been designed in such a way that upholds its lifespan. And then you will see the chipping from the snow plows potentially hitting the support structure during winter time, when you see the holes where the concrete is just crumbled due to the vibration of the train. Transportation is affecting the case of the bridge. You didn't know that, because Minnesota State Board of Transportation are marking this bridge as a territorial Minnesota State Board of Transportation regarding The transportation corridor issues are a part of this as well. Trains are an issue. If you look at this bridge middle of marking their territory, the safety transportation corridor has to contend with this as well because it is a damages federal government case. You didn't realize that all railroad bridge is part of the federal and state government property, not just a local state. Is an ultimate situation that occurs with these bridge end up becoming the federal government's situation. Anything that federal government issue because the occurs in the railroad lines and is a being of the federal government has to bring the Federal Board of Transportation. Investigators conclude the investigation on why the railroad train derailed or collapsed of the railroad bridge. Federal and State Board of Transportation to find out who Federal and State Board of Transportation need to go to advocate to get this bridge replaced. Railway bridge to ensure the safety protocols of the Federal and State Boards of Transportation protocol. Ultimately, society's endangerment is brought upon themselves by the irresponsible management when it comes to safety protocols of the 1930s. The beginning of World War I was a national security issue then to make sure that the United States had a mass transit corridor to ensure our country was able to get to the recruiting centers and military training centers at the time. Our major transportation at the time was that trying to get back and forth. Outside of that, it was horse and buggy. In 1930s, we as citizens must uphold our integrity as United States citizens and civil rights to live in a safe area within the public, because when the society is not safe, neither is easy for individual citizens. It is just worse and worse if we do not do something about protecting our civil rights as well as protecting our communities. For disaster reasons, we must uphold the National Board of Transportation guidelines that were in place since the 1930s when World War I was prevalent. We must engage the enemy accordion years as civilians fighting for their rights because the Army Corps of Engineers trees are growing out of pillar supports on this particular bridge. Society will rarely allow nature to take over the bridge support system, but it is becoming more prevalent with society refusing to care about their community. This is not just going to the low-income communities, but it is also going to be infecting small businesses as well as a federal government. If this bridge does collapse, you look at all of these videos, especially this one, you will see a bunch of cracks in the concrete, and all weekend the bridge can be if it has not been looked after, because again, this is the bridge that I have brought peace in the last report to my team when my last report before the 35W bridge collapse.
Spread my videos within YouTube and lead individuals to get a chance to see my subject through YouTube. Please select that subscribe, the like, and hit that bell button, please. Also, that bell button will also help spread all my videos throughout YouTube, as well as hitting that like button as well. The more people act within my video, the more YouTube will spread my videos within the individuals who like my subject. There will be more videos regarding bridges within my area of Minneapolis. Thank you for watching.